Hey guys, Hinrigh here, back here with another video, and Hunter x Hunter chapter 406 just dropped today, so here's my review on it. I've done some quite in-depth notes on it, so I'm going to go through the events of the chapter, give you my thoughts as I go through those events, and then afterwards I'm going to give you a conclusion, some possible predictions of what I think will happen, and overall just how the chapter sits in comparison to other Hunter x Hunter chapters. So let's get into it. The chapter starts off with Feitan, Finks, Nobunaga and Taojiao in the dark corridor, which is where we left them off. And they go with Taojiao next to the hole of the black whale and they climb the stairs to tier 2. Now one thing of note is that the artwork here is absolutely breathtaking. In fact, it's so good it reminds me almost of a Berserk type panel. Here it is. So, as they're climbing the stairs, Taojiao explains to them the ins and outs, the inner workings of the black whale. In particular, he explains the sewage system, and he explains how, well, the sewage is actually treated by independent contractors, which they hire. And Nobunaga comes to this inkling. He has a realization. Over the last 50 chapters, we've really come to see how mentally inclined and how sharp Nobunaga's problem-solving skills really are. He truly is one of the most intelligent members in the troupe, and he gets another moment to show it. In fact, this arc's really been an arc that's made us think highly of Nobunaga, as he's had plenty of moments to shine. And he comes to the realization that the independent contractors are the perfect opportunity for Hinrigh to sneak in under the guise of doing the sewage and then actually run the sewage system and get guys to come to them saying, hey, job interview or you're hired, and have them isolated so they can get free kills to level up their nen. So this shows us that Hinrigh has been doing this since the start of the Black Whale, since the expedition started. So it's not something new, and in fact, they might be even stronger than we potentially believe them to be. So after this, we get this funny moment where Taojiao is thinking to himself, man, compared to you guys, you're making me feel like an ordinary citizen, and I'm a mafia member. And then we have another funny moment where, of course, Nobunaga tells himself, I should go back and see them in the sewer. You guys continue without me. And Sphinx is like, hey, what's their abilities? And Nobunaga tells him their abilities. This robot we saw, of course, of hitting that almost is impossible to attack against. So you've got to play defensive for a bit. And Sphinx just says, you could have told this to us from the start. So there's some really nice comedic moments. Of course, the chemistry between the troupe members is really fascinating, and chapter by chapter really makes us engrossed of them and engrossed of wanting to root for them. In fact, the troupe are the people I'm rooting for the most because of just how genuine and how gradual their characterization and chemistry have become. So, after this, we switch over to a Nen burger. I don't know what's happening with that. I guess we're about to see. But this burger turns into an envelope. So some condition for Nen ability is being met, but we don't know about it just yet. And then afterwards, we go towards the quarters of the civilians, where there's a huge crowd of people which are all assembling together for Halkenberg's death. So we know that means that Morena and Hinrigh are about to be on the move. And we go to Hinrigh, who's thinking to himself, where's Lynch? Like, I haven't seen her in a while. What's happening with her? And of course, we know that Bonnelovelov killed her. So there's always this tension that immediately arises. And right after we see that, he has shown her corpse. And he has shown how she was killed and how they're just trying to work out what happens. So he's talking to the other guy who survived. And he's asking, what exactly happened between you guys when you found Hisoka? And he comes to the realization that not only did Hisoka kill her, but it's not actually Hisoka, because he comes to the deductive reasoning that the condition this person that killed her, that they think is Hisoka, wants them to believe is that that's the real Hisoka. So he starts having the suspicion that, just based on the core alignments of not wanting it to be known that it's Hisoka, that it's actually the Phantom Troupe that have killed her. And he gets this moment where he's telling himself, I'm going to kill whoever did this to them. So it's going to be interesting because that's a future conflict that could or could not happen. So I just thought that was a very good addition to the storyline, to the chapter. And it really made the events of the chapter more broad in its range, as we saw different perspectives and different characters and different factions. I thought that was great. It was an amazing addition. And we switch over to the main man, Chrollo. And Chrollo's using Shalnock's ability. He's in the crowd looking for Nen users. And we're thinking to ourselves, why is he looking for Nen users? And he explains that he was doing the same thing in Heaven's Arena. And actually, he needs people to be controlled that are strong enough. My guess is that, last time with the people that he was fighting with Hisoka, they weren't actually strong enough. Hisoka was just taking them down because they weren't Nen users. So he's thinking of maybe joining the Succession War, and that's so that he could look for his 3 treasures of Kakin, the Kakin's Regalia, which actually, funnily enough, is the name of the chapter. So that was a very interesting details. And these 3 treasures are the Seed URN, which we've already come to learn about, and we've seen how the Seed URN has provided the princes of the Nen beasts. So that's a very interesting thing he's looking for. The Lotus Anchorites, which is this mummy which looks after, the succession contest. And it seems like it's the thing that's protecting the ship. Of course, we saw that Prince Fugetsu and Prince Kacho tried to escape the Black Whale, and Prince Kacho died because once you leave the Black Whale, there's a Nen ability which takes your life. So I believe this is the Lucas Anchorites. But there's also another thing that it could be the thing that's when the king is placing the dead corpses of the princes in these chambers, in these pods, that could be linked to it as well. And then there is a Sword of Good Omens. So that's something that's interesting, since out of the 3, it's the only one we haven't seen of and we don't know about. The only thing we know about it, as it says in the chapter, is that it's the sword that's given to the winner of the succession contest. So is this going to be a Nen boost? I don't know. We're about to find out. So Chrollo is in total determination. At this moment, he's telling himself that he needs to be ready to die and that he is proud of the structure he's created of the troupe. Of course, meaning that the legs of the spider can move without the head. We get this absolutely incredible panel of Chrollo. Probably the single best panel we've ever gotten in Hunter x Hunter, where we see his face distorted of many rough lines, and we see this emblem of flames in his eyes, showing his just utter will and determination. Now, I'm probably going to use this as a thumbnail for this video just because it's that eye-catching. And I'm just assuming that all the reviewers are probably going to use the same panel because, wow, my golly gosh, that was absolutely exquisite. So, after this, we see that he's planning to move up because he can't find the Nen user. It says that the Nen user is out of range. So what this means is that he needs to move up a tier. Now, who is this Nen user? It could be Hisoka, it could be someone he needs for a conditional Nen ability, or it could be someone who's in the succession contest. In the end, Togashi's letting us have a lot of answers to a lot of questions, and afterwards, he's giving us more questions, which is what he's doing here. So, afterwards, you see that everyone's really crying because the funeral has started, and Prince Halkenberg's body, which is actually Belzimico inside, is being carried out. This makes me nervous because it means that Morena and Haley are surely there. It looks like when we get this beautiful paneled out zoom view of everyone, but there's at least a few thousand people at this funeral. So if Morena and Haley can just run through, they actually can get so powerful. I don't see how they wouldn't win the succession war. Even though she's not officially part of it, I think she'll become so much of a threat within the contest that it becomes a really big player. Moving back to Chrollo, the interesting thing is that part of the condition for his Hatsu, which of course is a skill hunter book, he needs to level up based on conditions. We saw this when he was fighting against Zeno and Silver, and Zeno was explaining to us how to steal an ability. He needs 6 or 7 conditions. So based on that assumption, to level up the book, you probably need a lot more conditions, and Chrollo's probably been working to unlock those conditions. One of the conditions he needs is he needs to steal a national level treasure. So this national level treasure is of course one of these 3 treasures of Kakin. Now the question is, does he get bonus points for getting all 3? Would that level up his skill hunter more? And he's in this situation where he's pondering. He doesn't have the patience to wait. he is completely overcome with blood loss towards Hisoka. He's in a very emotional and vulnerable state, but at the same time, if he can secure these treasures, he will have a 100% chance of killing Hisoka for good, which means that the boost is absolutely tremendous. And he's also considering to himself how dangerous it would be to enter the succession war by himself, and he ponders on the fact that the royals actually know that he's there, and Chrollo is deducting based on the fact that the royals haven't made a move, that they are being complacent as the treasures aren't on the lower tiers. He suspects it's on tier 1, which would make a lot of sense, and we've seen that on tier 1 is where the tombs of the dead corpses of the princes are taken, and they're placed in some Nen ability, which I think will be the Lotus Anchorites. So this is all making sense. Everything's all adding up. All the pieces are slowly coming together. And that leads us to all the events of the chapter. Now, overall, I would say this chapter's a 9 out of 10. It is absolutely incredible. Great progression. Great pacing. The humor is impeccable. There's a few moments where it made me laugh out loud, and that was just always fun, because when you've got something that's very serious, if you can add humor in the right way and a subtext that doesn't take away from the tension, it really enhances the story and makes you feel more immersed inside it. So the atmosphere and the art are another huge bonus. The atmosphere is very dark, and it feels very intimate, in the sense that everyone feels like they're on the brink of something. We don't know quite what it is, but it feels like at any moment things could kick off. And the art, I could be like poof after he sees that the king's enjoying taking his life energy, like Okay, well, I'm just gonna put the clip. But yeah, all jokes aside, it was absolutely amazing. I loved it so much. And yes, we also had the characterization, which is great, and that worked hand in hand with the tension, since we know how these members operate. We know that Nobunaga is someone he's very optimistic. We saw that with Gon and Killua, where he wanted to place them inside the troupe. So he's someone that's really always trying to push things to reality, which in turn makes him in danger. We know that Franklin's a chill guy who's laid back, and we know that Hinrigh is someone that likes to take action. So we can see how these characters are moving in relation to each other, and it all spells out conflicts, death, and absolute tyranny. So after this, I thought the intelligence of the writing of Togashi and of the characters was incredible, especially those moments in Nobunaga. I thought those were masterfully done. But also just in general, I thought that all the characters are very thinking, they were very logical in their reasonings, and it was all in relation to how we know them to be. So nothing felt forced. It didn't feel like anyone suddenly changed. I thought the presentation was great. Just the way that Togashi played around the field of perspectives, the field of view. He did almost camera angles. He gave us those moments of suspense where we wanted to turn the page. And the hype was incredible. This hype was unlike anything we have seen since the Palace invasion, to be quite fair. I mean, the setup to this chapter, even though it was a chapter that primarily set up a future conflict, it felt absolutely massive. It felt like the beginning of something truly magnificent. And for that, I think it deserves all our bonus points, because lots of setup chapters, quite frankly, you're just feeling like, let's get past this, let's get to the real thing. But this setup might possibly become more interesting than what it's actually setting up to. So I thought that was incredible. And yeah, I thought that Morena has really, really established herself as a big player. It's almost guaranteed that the thousands of people there are going to die. And once that happens, the significant boost in Nen is going to be so substantial. Everyone's going to suddenly become aware of Hayley, where that was a big upper hand. Her joker is that no one knew what Hayley was, what the abilities were for, and just all of her plans and even her existence. Whilst now everyone's going to know, and you bet your ass off but if Benjamin's still alive in the next 48 hours, he's going to get the royal army down there ASAP. So that's going to be interesting. And it's also going to be interesting to see if the royal army would actually do anything, or if they're just going to be a tool to level up Morena until we can, of course, Benjamin. And of course, we know that Tchedinich still doesn't care. So he's completely abandoned his mafia. They're completely stranded. So they're just there waiting to be killed by Morena as well. I'd say that this is the best chapter since, for me, chapter 337, where it was the Chrollo Chimera Ant's backstory. But really, aside from personal bias, which I really liked the philosophy in that chapter, I think this is the single best chapter since, honestly, since the invasion, of the palace invasion, since Netero and Zeno dropped down to Pito and Poof. Since all the way back then, I think this is the best moment in the story. Everything was incredible. In fact, giving the chapter a 9 out of 10 feels very harsh. I'm not really too much a believer in those points, system like 9.8, whatever, because I think that can become very subjective and very, very complicated to even get a hang of. Because for me, as I'm doing these chapter reviews, this is my 6th chapter review in a row, I'm always trying to base things off the last ones. Like, I gave a few of them an 8 out of 10, so a 9 out of 10 feels fair. If I had to give a point system, it would probably be a 9.8, but regardless of that, I think this chapter has been absolutely exceptional. I think we've been very lucky from Togashi himself. He's really amped up the stakes and sped up the pacing. We're fully in the middle of the succession contest, and it feels like that middle ground of the succession contest doesn't have much time left within it. It feels like things are escalating to a point where we're going to see a massive chain of events which are about to kick off very soon. The question is, what will the trigger be? The most likely option for the trigger will be this event right now, Halfenberg's funeral and the massacre, the genocide that's going to happen of the civilian class of people. So I can't wait. I hope you've all enjoyed this chapter as much as I did. And with that being said, I don't think there's much more for me to conclude, just that I think that the setup is going to make whatever comes next even better and enrich us within the future, because there's lots of little nuanced moments and lots of theories are going to pop out from this. But if you've got a suggestion for a video you'd like me to cover, please let me know in the description down below, as I do all the videos you guys suggest. And yes, I hope you've all had an incredible day. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you all. This was Hinrigh. Peace out.
羽ばたいたら戻らないと言って目指した